Hello and welcome back to another Teacher's Cup of Coffee. Very excited to be here today. It's an awesome day. It's Juneteenth, so schools are out and we're celebrating a very important holiday here in America. It's the U.S. soccer match today. I don't know if you knew that, my guest Vilenti, but the big match today against Australia. So a lot of good stuff going on today. And I'm most excited about my guest here today. I'm here to welcome Vilenti Tulloch to the pod, but I got to start with, I have known Vilenti since he was in high school. I was his high school basketball coach his last couple of years. We've had a great relationship. We've had a great friendship now in adulthood. We've become colleagues. I actually work for him, and he's done some incredible things in education. I should be honest, he did it at my school, the last school I was principal of. He worked there. He created the Academic Leadership Association. He wrote the book, Engage to Excel. And what he does is he works with the most at-risk kids in a school. And a lot of this stuff is going to come out as we talk, but Vilenti was a teacher, was a counselor, was an administrator, a social worker, did all those things, decided then that he felt schools needed more than he could provide from the inside. So now he works with a bunch of different schools, goes in and out of buildings, has a bunch of mentors that work for him. Academic Leadership Association does some incredible work. But more importantly, he had a killer crossover in high school. He has a completely disarming smile. And I'm really excited to have you here, Vilenti. So happy Juneteenth, Vilenti, and welcome to the pod.
Yes, thanks for having me. Listen, man, I listen to your pod all the time, and they're usually quick, which I'm like, dang, wish Timmy acts a little more. I wish it went on a little longer. Because I love your pod, man. I love the conversations, and I love you, quite frankly. We met in high school, and a lot of like ALA, what it's rooted in, is what we had when we first met. So, and I guess we'll talk about that, but. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Vilenti, you swear I mentored you in high school, and listen, I like to think maybe I had some level of impact, but the real truth is I was super young and I just wanted to be your friend. And then I would scrimmage all the time, and we were point guards, so we'd be guarding each other, so we couldn't help but get to know each other.
Yeah.
But we did have a very cool relationship, and to be honest, as I was starting I was only a few years into my educational journey at that time, and I was sort of finding all these different ways as a teacher and as a coach that I could connect with students. And certainly your relationship with me and my relationship with you was a unique one early in my career, which you always say I helped shape you, but you definitely helped shape me, and that's without a doubt.
You had this, unique ability to, like, I remember I was playing like crap one game, terrible. And, one of our coaches was just like on my back, just yelling at me. And I remember you just pulling me aside away from the team after halftime. And you looked at, and I don't think I ever shared this. I might have mentioned this to you, but we looked at like the plus minus data. And I remember you were really big on like plus minus like information back then.
Look at
And
that! Look at I was on analytics early.
you
Thank you
was,
for that. Thank you
you
for that.
was, and you used that, and you were like, we run as you go. Like, we go as you go. So you didn't know if it was like what something going on, what my attitude was, but I didn't show up like I usually, upbeat self. I was a captain of the team. So you were just like, I don't know what's going on with you, but we need you. And, we looked at the numbers, we looked at the score, we looked at the teammates, and I was like, all right, coach. And we ended up winning that game, and the second half was totally different. But, yeah, and even from high school to like just early career, late career, like I remember just coming up to your school and trying to figure out how to get into education after because I wanted to get out of social work, and you just took the time, sat down with me, and so you've been like really guiding me since high school, mentoring me, just being that coach. Right, that lifelong coach that and just this lifelong relationship that we've had that helped kind of served as like guardrails for me and like keeping me on track and keeping me like where I need, helping point me in the right direction where I want to go or need to go in my career. So all appreciated.
Yeah, well,
And we're doing big things at ALA, so
yeah,
that's really cool
you've
too.
gone there and then some. You've gone
Uh,
there and then some, and it's amazing all the things you've accomplished as an educator already, still in your 30s. but it's even more amazing the impact you've had on kids. And so that's what I want to really make this about, right?
Yeah.
Academic Leadership Association gets hired by a school, comes into the school. The school provides a list of students. These are your students, ALA. It's either you or you have a bunch of mentors that do the same thing as you. You go in, you start to mentor these students in schools. But I always say you do more than that. You really provide wraparound services. And so we could spend an hour talking about exactly all the things ALA does. But, you know, you meet with the kids individually, you meet with the kids in groups, you meet with their teachers, you get to know their families, you use data, you come up with learning plans, you come up with contracts, you go to their soccer games and their football games, you take them to colleges to learn science over school vacations, you take them to Springfield Thunderbird games. I mean, you do all these incredible things, and at the end of it all, it's like all this work, and at the end of it all, it's simply good relationships that are so good that even when you're not around, the kid will work harder in school. Even when you're not around, the kid will behave better. And it really is, I want to make this conversation a little bit about like, what's the secret sauce? What's ALA's secret sauce? How do you accomplish the things with kids that you accomplish? What is it? When we drill down, your book's amazing. Your book's amazing. There's like 8 or 9 chapters describing the secret sauce. But I want to get down to like, really, what is it? And so that's my first question. It's too big of a question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What do you think the secret sauce is for what you're able to do with students?
Yeah, so I remember when I first got into education, I was working in a school about an hour from Springfield, which I'm based out of, and I remember having a student who, listen, it was my first year teaching. I had like a classroom of like 4 kids. It was the SCL classroom. It was a SEPS classroom, is what they called it, social, emotional, and behaviors. But so, I just remember like building like genuine, just authentic relationships around the building. And the kids kind of like gravitated towards me. I didn't know really what it was at first. And, but I really took a liking to a lot of the kids, and a lot of the students who had high office referrals or attendance issues would be in my room. To the point where one of the administrators was like, hey, like you should start like a program, like a mentoring program for these kids. And I was just trying to learn how to write lesson plans and be a good teacher. So I started, one of those groups. It's called the Young Gentlemen's Club. And I remember there was one kid, and I tell a story in the book, but we tell the story a lot. He was just really cutting up, man. He was like running through the hallways. He was starting fights outside, like before school, like during recess, lunchtime, like a lot of unstructured times, which we would learn later. So we sat down. I had a good principal at the time. We sat down and we really looked at, we kind of looked through the data and realized like every time he would get in trouble, it would be right after unstructured times. During unstructured times, so like right after, right? And one of the key areas was during math. Math started at 1:00 every day, and so he would have lunch, recess, and then specials, and then they're like, hey, do math at 1:00. And he really struggled in math, and we couldn't figure out why he kept running. He would like disrupt the classroom. He would bolt out, and it would be the same reoccurring cycle. So I went to him one day. I'm like, hey,
And the
let's.
school's just caught in it. The school's
Yes, we're just caught in it, right?
no fault. Like I don't even blame them. It just caught in it. Just
Yes, and just like on the side note, a lot of schools get so comfortable just like being firefighters all day, or just like just so caught up in that. So I went to him. I'm like, hey man, I want to propose something to you. I want us to do a check-in every day at 1:00, and I got one rule: we can't talk about school. We can't talk about grades. We can't talk about your teachers. We just have to have a conversation about life. All right. And he was kind of like, what? Like my teacher doesn't want to talk about school. So, we started doing the check-ins, and I just learned so much about this kid. So much about his friendships, so much about his drama going on, and he was kind of like a little ladies' man. So like, he was sharing all that, and he was really like a charismatic kid. And I remember one week he was out for like 3 days straight, and he was a chronic absentee student. So, I went to his house. I realized, like, hey man, it's been 3 days. I haven't seen this kid. Talked to my principal. Hey, I'm just gonna do a home visit. I don't know. And everybody's like, "Are you sure? You go to?" Yeah, I'm like, he lives half a mile down. Nobody's been there. It was like so odd to me that nobody's been. I guess because my background is social work. But I'm like, let's just go to the house. So I went over to the house, and he answered the door in his pajamas. You would have thought he saw a ghost. He couldn't believe that a teacher came to the house. And I was like, hey, man, like, what's going on? What are you doing? He's like, oh, he tried to give me all these excuses why he couldn't go to school. I'm like, listen, I'm not worried about none of that. You don't even have to go to school today. I just need my check-in. Like, I'm relying on this check-in every single day at 1 o'clock. You haven't been there, so can we do our check-in now? And he's like, are you sure? Like, I can try to get dressed. I'm like, nah, don't. Today's almost over. Like, let's just do our check-in, and I'll see you tomorrow. Deal? And so we did our check-in. We talked for a little bit. Then I went back to school, and when I tell you, like, he didn't struggle with attendance for the rest of because he'll know I'll go to his house, right? But he also knew that I cared about him, right? Like, that unlocked, like that connection piece, that trust barrier, we were able to just kind of build from there. And a few months later, this kid is student of the month, mentee of the month, and finished math with a C+, which was a win. I'm telling you, it was a win for that year. And the kid would just take off since then. So, like, little stories like that, like, I think I don't know if you say it's a sauce, maybe, but I think it's really just truly, like, loving kids and, like, truly caring about not just what's happening in the classroom, not just what's happening with the curriculum, how they behave, follow rules. It's really, like, genuinely caring about who they are and how they show up, and so.
So that story is a good one because, not surprisingly to you, I have some thoughts on what I think your secret sauce is. Okay, and that story puts two of them in there. And the first one is, when I started writing notes for this, like, the first word I wrote down was care, right? And it's such a easy word to overuse. But when I've seen you and other people from ALA work with kids, it models a different level of caring than I'm used to. And there's a lot of us educators out there who really care about kids, but 2 or 3 things go wrong. They're rude. There's these things that will lessen how much care we show them. And they're used to it. That's the cycle those kids are used to. And so, even the best of us can get caught up in this, right? And the thing I've noticed about you and the work you do with students is, like, the care doesn't waver. The plans change, the timing changes. It's not that you haven't had frustrating moments where you've had to, like, vent before you, like, do the thing again. But it is an incredible level of deep care that just plows through every barrier the kid puts up. And I think that deep care, and there's a million, you're well read. I'm going to talk later about you're a sponge, and you have a million ways to say it. But, like, when I really boil it down, it's just that. It's just like, you guys care so much, and you especially, about these kids. So that's part of it to me, and that's a real skill, and it takes reflection. It sort of takes knowing how to show it, knowing how to grow it, and knowing how to maintain it. Right. And some teachers can show it, but they don't grow it and they don't maintain it. So, you do all three. And the other thing that is similar to that is the outside school stuff. And you go. We'll come back to that second one.
Yeah. I think it's hard, right? Like, we talk about this a lot, but, like, the cycle, right? Of, a kid acts out. And we just take it so personal sometimes as teachers, right? It's like it's a direct shot at who we are as human beings, how we teach. If we can't reach a kid, and so, like, just being self-aware, and this is what we talk about, but just being self-aware and understanding, like, hey, today's a new day, and if it's not, if you're struggling to kind of get over some of the challenges that, or like if a kid cussed you out and you're struggling to get over that the next day, I think that's more of a reflection on us, right? Like
Yeah.
I did a graduation speech for elementary school the other day, and one of the kids, I love this kid to death, love him to death. Oh my God, he struggles with self-regulation. And in the speech, I'm like, this is the kid who cursed me out the most all
Yeah.
year. Like, he's really good at it, coach.
Yeah.
He's small. He really knows how to cuss you out. Like, so I'm
Good
telling that
skill.
story. It's a great skill. I'm like, well, you're really good at cussing, boy. And so, but I love him, right? And you know what the key component was, and I noticed it when I was writing the speech, was like, he shows up. He shows up every single day, right? We do our check-ins. He shows up. He'll have an attitude sometime. He'll show up. He'll be there for the after school sessions on Wednesday. He may grumble a little bit, but he'll be in group counseling, right? He'll share out. He'll do what he has to do. And he had the best attendance of anybody in our program there.
Wow.
And that speaks to a kid who wants connection. He wants to feel like he belongs. And he wants somebody to really actually, not push him away when he's acting that way, because he's going to show up. And so one of the things that I landed on was, for his future teachers or future educators, is as much as he tries to push you away, pull him closer. He's going to push you away, pull him in more. Because he wants that at the end of the day. I think a lot of kids want that.
Yeah. No, they 100% do. It's just hard as adults to do it. It's hard
Yeah.
as adults to do it. So care, deep care, never-ending care, fight through walls care, all of that. The other thing I think that ALA and you provide is this outside of school stuff, right? And you tell a lot of stories where like one soccer game changed everything with a kid, one visit to the house changed everything with a kid, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's more than that. I think it's more than the one-offs. I think it's the sustained outside of school stuff. So, a school can have all the best intentions to work with its most at-risk kids, but to really get in with them, you got to get outside of the school, right? So you talked earlier about your first group at the elementary school. I'll be honest, I still remember. I can't remember if I was following you on socials at that point. It was before we had kind of come reconnected. We were both busy starting families and stuff. And but all of a sudden I had a post of yours that was like you and like 10 elementary boys, and they were all wearing ties. And that was
Yeah.
the moment where I was like, what's Vilenti doing? Like, this is awesome. I need to know what is happening here. And that was all after school. A lot of that was after school stuff. And but then, taking students from my school a few years ago to science camps at local colleges.
Yeah.
Just opening an office where like you do book talks with students. And so, I think it's really important to go to a dance recital dance recitals are tough. Those are long. I'm not going to throw
Oh
that out there.
yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really important to go to these things once in a while to show kids you care. But I think for the kids you're working with, it's almost even more important to do things that take time with them
Yeah.
outside of school. And I think that's something ALA and you are able to do, you do, and you do well. And I think I would call that part of the secret sauce.
Yeah, if you really like listen to kids, they're gonna tell you a lot about what they're doing outside of school. They're gonna let you in on some of the things, especially if you have those relationships. But especially with our most challenging kids, they're gonna let us in on some of the things they're really interested in if we give them the space to do so. And I think it's important to show up, and it's also a great opportunity not just to like see the kid in their true element, and it's something you can build off of later, but also just see their families in those environments and see how much they show up for their kids, right? You go into schools, and a lot of times it's I don't want to say a lot of times, but I hear it here and there. It's like, oh, the families don't answer the phone, or it's hard to connect with mom, or where's dad, right? And when you actually show up and the family see you, that's a great opportunity to connect with them and just see that the family culture, the family dynamic, and see them rooting for their kids, or just being so proud. And I think that for us can help change our mindset of, how this family operates, right? And how we can include them on what's going on. But yeah, I think it's that. I think it's also like, and I mentioned, but like listening and seeing, like, all right, these kids want to learn about leadership. Okay, like a lot of times literacy is an issue, especially in our community. Is like, so how do we push literacy for teens where it's cool,
Yeah.
right? So I got together with some people who really care about literacy and for Black and brown kids, and we let the kids choose the book. We were like, hey, like, here's some options. What do you guys think? All right, let's get our boys, let's get our friends together in this group, and so we can show up for each other, and then creating like this dynamic of like unity and community between that small group, right? So when they miss and maybe that's the part of it, is like when they miss a session, they're not letting me down. They're not, like, they're letting their friends down. You right? So
Yeah.
it's just creating that buy-in, man. Just getting the kids to want to buy in and show up for each other, and show up for the relationship that we have. Right? I really believe in the kids, though. I really push them and I challenge them, and it's hard to do that if we don't have that relationship first and that
Yeah.
trust.
That's an awesome. I love how you just said that. I don't think I've ever heard you say it all that way. And I think you really got at the core of it there. And that's what I was trying to get at, which is you just build this thing outside of school for kids that just like it changes it. It changes it. And those kids that you're working with need that. They need it. All right. So I talked about seeing you with the elementary kids in ties,
Yeah.
and that like me being like, oh, Valenti, what is he doing?
Can I tell you
Um,
real quick, Timmy? I will tell you a
yeah.
funny story about the ties. Is like so they would wear ties every Monday. We would come in and we all wear ties on Monday. It was like a cool thing. It was like a big
And this
thing
was
for
at
the
a
school.
normal public school, right? In
Normal public
Southfield.
school. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Normal public school. And it was so funny. And everybody thought I knew how to tie the ties. I still don't know how to tie a tie good. But like the kids be like, Mr. Valenti, Mr. Tulloch, I need my tie for the day. I'm like, all right, go see so and so, go see.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't know how to do them. It's funny.
That actually doesn't surprise me. That's on brand. Like you get 10 kids to wear ties to a elementary public school on Mondays, and you can't tie a tie yourself. I love it.
All my ties
Um,
are pre-tied
yeah.
and hung up already. So that's so yeah.
So another time I knew you were like for real, and I knew you were going to have a major impact was you were at my school, and you were showing up in a suit. We've talked about that, and like you were starting to meet with your kids. And then you like came down to me, and I'm going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm just all over the place all day in a good way and fun way. And you're like, I'm gonna need to grab some data on these kids. We're gonna need to set some plans with some data and some. And I was like, oh man, I didn't see this coming. You're even doing that side of this? Like, I was gonna be fine if they just liked you and you could.
Yeah.
And instead, you add that component, which is really, I think, legitimizes the work you do. And talk a little bit about that, because I actually think that's part of it. I think that's part of the secret sauce.
I just got so excited when you brought that up. I just love data, right? And I just love using data. And it's funny just to go back to what we talked about earlier, like how you looked at data as my high school coach, and you were like, "Hey, this is why I'm saying this. We win because this is what you do." Like,
Yeah.
so I just remember I have a kid. And it's so funny because he did a speech a couple weeks ago and he told the story. I'm like, thank God, because all this, you know how time goes by and you're did this story happen exactly how I
Yeah.
and he told, I was like, oh, I got. So anyway, yeah. So when I'm meeting with kids, right, I really, all right, there's this care. We you know I'm here for you. There's tough love, right? Because I can push you now. And so when we have these conversations, we're not just like, shooting the breeze. We're not just kind of talking about, we're talking about getting down to like how we can leverage this relationship to push you to do hard stuff in class, right? And push you beyond. I had a kid who struggled with attendance. I remember he first gave it to me. That next day, his mom called me at like 4 a.m. It was like, I cannot get him up. I'm like, well, yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't blame him for not wanting to wake up. And he heard that. He's like laughing in the background. But so I get on the phone with him, and I hadn't even met this kid yet, right? And I'm like, asking him questions, and 10 minutes goes by, and he's just like, all right, like, are you going to be there today? I'll go to school if you're there. And I didn't even like lecture him or just talk. I just talked to him.
Yeah.
Right. And so he thought, and I was like, it's not that bad, right? Like, it's you thought I was going to come, to yell at you and be like a drill sergeant. That's not what I'm going to do. So you go to school today. I'll meet you there. Let's have a conversation about what's happening. Then things came out about, friendships and peer groups he was struggling with and all these things and his own mental health. And so we worked from there. And then, once we kind of built that, relationship, that strong foundation, I really started to push him. So I'm like, Timmy, I need some data. Like, I want to know how he's doing in math. I want to know how he's doing in ELA. I need access to some of their portals and so we would sit down every week and we would talk about goals he wanted to accomplish. All right, you want to be in school? Let's shoot for 4 out of 5 days, 80% attendance for each week. All right, because he really was only going like 2 days a week. And after 2 months, he crushed that goal. Then we're like, all right, let's set a new goal. Like, let's figure out this math and figure out how we can get these grades up. Your goal, you want to end the year with a 2.8. All right, what are we going to do to get there? So every week we meet and look at what assignments he's got in. Is he staying on track? And so it got to the point where when we met, he would already have his phone out ready to show me his grades. And It's funny because even to this day he does that. But it was really him driving the learning now. Him driving the conversation around his goals. It wasn't me pushing him to want to do these things. Now I tell you, Timmy, no lie, this kid is in high school. He's a 2-sport athlete. He has a 3.6 GPA. Crushing it. And now he's a peer leader for some of the other kids. And so it really just, I'm telling you, man, this stuff can happen. And sometimes we get kids and they struggle and we see the behaviors and we think, this is who this kid's going to be. No, it's not. They just we need to get to the root of it and working. I love this word they used to use, but work in solidarity with the students, right? Mm-hmm. But it's hard to push kids. It's hard to have that tough love if like the kids don't know you actually care about them and you actually have love for them.
So all right. So good segue, right? So, because this is something, viewers, you're gonna like watch Vilenti and I like think something out loud here. Okay, this is different than normal just question answer. But like that's one thing I've been so Vilenti and I through ALA have done a lot of trainings in schools, many different schools on how to build relationships. And Vilenti's touched on some of the small skills that I call them small skills, but maybe discrete skills that can help you build relationships with students, can help any educator. You have one tiny section in the book that I love. The title of it is Create Space for Life Conversations, right? Mm. And just like, I think that's such a vital thing. So that's something you do when you're one-on-one with a kid or when you're in the cafeteria talking to a kid, right? But that's also something a teacher can do. If a teacher dedicates himself to it, they can do it. So I'm very proud of the trainings we give, and we've had really good results and feedback on sort of like, here's the steps on how we can build relationships with the toughest kids. You and I train schools on how to build it with the most at-risk learners, right? But all of those skills help you build all the relationships. But here's where I grapple a bit, is like, what you do is so impactful and frankly just so like incredible.
Thank you.
And you and I have talked, like, we want to train schools. You're trying to cannibalize ALA. You want to train schools so they don't need ALA.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's possible. I don't know that it's possible because as much as relationship building is essential, it's probably the number one skill educators and schools need at this point. I still think there's a level that ALA can go to that maybe a teacher that has 110 English students can't get to, right? And maybe a human being more normal than you, like, you know, a lot of people bring what you brought to the beginning of their career. A lot of people bring what you brought to the beginning of their career, but then they start their own family and they can't keep it up, right? Like I would love to go to that kid's soccer game, but my kid has a soccer game, right? You have 4 kids and you've somehow managed to be a phenomenal father and husband and still do this stuff for all the students that you work with. So I guess I'm just curious, like, what do you think? Can a school do what you do? Or is it that every school needs some sort of outside group that does what you do? Because I'm torn.
Yeah, I think it's possible. To me, I think it has to be intentional though. I mean, we talk about like MTSS and we talk about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and we have these like schools that want to do PBIS, right? And I get that. I think there's structures in place that can make this happen, right? Like I think that when I go into schools, there's usually a handful of teachers that the kids just gravitate to naturally, right? That they just love.
Yeah.
They're always in their room. There's a counselor. There's somebody in that building who just does the relationship thing really good, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we do the best job leveraging that in the right way, where we're not taxing them to do more than because then they get burnt out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can, as a team, like really structure or put into place different interventions that speak to some of these relationship things that we're doing, and if they can work as a team, let's say a grade level team, they meet and they have a handful of kids that they're really struggling with, right? I think if you look at some of those kids and you look at the data and really comb through it and figure out when it's happening, why it's happening, where the concerns are, where the gaps are, I think we can really get to the root of the issues that the kids are experiencing, right? And if we're proactive, we can implement some of these interventions with this kid and say like, hey, what's some of the things that one of the great things I like to do is like just hear from the kids and hear like what are their motivators, right? There's just this tool that we use that they can let us know like if they're motivated by independent time, if they're motivated by their peers, if they're motivated by like their trusted adults, right? And a lot of times I'm telling you, like the kids who struggle the most are really looking for adult approval in the building, right? So if we can identify who their trusted adult is in a building and allow them more times throughout the day or throughout the week to kind of connect with them and build on that relationship and use that relationship to kind of leverage that, them to do some of the things they're struggling with better. I think it can happen in schools, but it's got to be a collective effort, right? Because we can't, again, ask this one educator to do all the relationship stuff while the other educators just send them to that whenever there's an issue, right? So, so why can't we take what's motivating that student, adult approval, cool. So what can we do? How can we connect? All right, so there's a lot of kids. I'll tell you, I connect easy with kids who play sports. That's easy for me, right? I don't know, and I love your joke, but when we talk about kids who are in anime or kids who are, into different things that we don't know much about, that's okay though, right? Like, how can I learn more about what you're into? What's some things I can do to learn more about anime? What's the shows I can watch? I remember not too long ago, I asked my son, like, hey, like, if I'm going to start watching anime, like, what show should I watch first? And he went on this, like, this is the most he's talked in, like, a while. He's like, well, you got to start here. You got to start with Naruto because this is, like, the GOAT of all anime, right? So that opened up a window to more conversation, more dialogue around, like just life, right? And so I think that there's windows of opportunity and we should really take advantage of them. I don't think it's impossible though.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. It's not impossible, and certainly there's a lot of space between like really not doing well with your most at-risk kids as a school and just providing ALA like wraparound services. Oh boy. Providing ALA wraparound services, right? And so there's a lot of space in the middle. And that's where me and you work with schools. Is like, let's get better here, right? But once a point guard, always a point guard, right? Like I just gave you an alley-oop to say, yeah, every school needs ALA. Like and you wouldn't take it. You wouldn't take it.
No.
Um, but this is where like as someone who's the principal for a long time, teacher, sort of seen a lot of different angles. Now I'm going into schools with my college students and like, every single school is overstressed and understaffed, right? Every single school. And then, like when it boils down to it, like the thing that's the most stressful is like student behavior,
Yeah.
right? And like dealing with kids that are struggling the most. And I don't know. I feel like the model you've created, it could change things nationwide. Like what if every school, who by the way, schools spend so much money on professional development, so much money on boxed curriculum. Like, what if they just said, you know what? We're going to cut that by a third. And with that third, we're going to bring in this organization that's going to work with our 3% of most at-risk kids. And they're going to provide these wraparound services. And by the way, like another cool thing about being like ALA, right? Like, and I understand it now. Like, educators got to be at school at 7:15. Like it's hard to be on your game at 3:15 when you were there at 7:15, right?
Yeah.
But when you bring in something like your program, you can walk in at 9, like, and you can be still having energy at 4 o'clock to do these other things, right?
Yeah.
So sort of the human capacity. I think schools, I would love to see schools realize we got to get more creative. We can't just keep buying the next literacy program and telling teachers to love the tough kids. Like there's more to
Yeah.
this, and we gotta. So I think you've really created something with the Academic Leadership Association that could just have a massive impact. I've seen it in my school and other schools, and I think it's just beginning, to be honest with you.
I appreciate it. And it's funny because we're losing a lot of teachers in the profession, and we're losing
Yeah.
a lot of black and brown teachers because of what I just mentioned, right? Like a buddy of mine calls it the black tax. But
Yeah.
we're because kids gravitate towards their representation, which representation matters. Where they're showing up in their classrooms and they're dealing with some of the toughest challenges in the school, and that gets overwhelming, right? We're just asking these groups of people to do this. So I think that's another conversation. But like, how can we do a better job recruiting and retaining educators of color and just all educators, right? But really educators of color, because it really makes a difference in schools. But yeah, it's tough, man, because the reason why we do the PDs is because I would take a kid, we would have a great conversation, I'll push him to his classroom.
Yeah.
Just so motivated, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll be back, all right? I'll be back in a couple of days. I come back Thursday, and he's like waiting, like he's just like waiting for me to show up. And the reason we started the PDs because I was hoping, right, that like this would be just like a bridge to that relationship. But like, how can we help the teachers build that same type of relationship and have those same type of conversations that motivated that student to want to do well, and so it can be sustained, right, in that school building.
Well, it's totally, this does not undermine the importance of teaching and working,
For sure.
and sometimes more than teaching, reminding teachers like how to have positive relationships with at-risk kids and how to maintain them, and like you said, how to just check your ego at the door. The minute your ego walks into the building, you're probably going to have a bad day if your
Yeah.
ego walks in with you, right? Like,
Uh, Oh my God, I have a funny story, man. I remember I was in a school actually this year. It's a middle school, and we had a kid who was in the hallway, just him and his friends, and I'm like, hey, this student. I was letting the teachers know. We was just having a conversation, and I was like, hey, like I don't know what's going on, but this student and his friends. I'm not sure where they're supposed to be, and he kind of overheard that. He's like, he called down to his buddy. He's like, man, this N word's lying down the hall, and this wasn't like a student of color.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
So every bit of my, you know, like I
That's funny.
just
I think I've heard this story, and I don't think I ever knew it wasn't a student of color.
yeah. So every piece of my body wanted to like address that in that moment, but the kid was already escalated. So me going back and forth and trying to give him a history lesson on why he shouldn't use that, it just wasn't going to work in the moment, right? And I didn't want to put that teacher in a bad position because we're going, so I just had to, take a second, walk away, right? And then I later would have a conversation with that student one-on-one, and it would just receive better, right? It was just like, hey, man, like this is why, this is why we shouldn't, use that word and how offensive it is. And, like I just wanted to have that one-on-one conversation with him. And I was like, I even said like, hey, if like I approach you in a way that like, if I said anything, listen, man, like let's have that conversation. But I don't think you should ever do this. Right. And it was just received differently. Right. Like, so like sometimes we just want to have that battle in that moment, and it just isn't always necessary. It's not always necessary.
So, all right. So we've been trying to. I've been trying to work with you to define the secret sauce of the work you do. Right.
How am I doing so far?
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
But I'm going to add one. So before we go to the speed round, which I know you're most nervous about, before we go to the speed round, like I'm going to stick with the word care.
Yeah.
But it that word is limited in our understanding of it versus what you actually provide for at-risk kids. There's just this level of like parental care for them that just breaks through every wall, and you never stop caring and they never stop feeling it, right?
Yeah.
There's the outside school stuff, the little things outside school and the long sustained things. I think that is so important to the impact you have. There's the fact that you do use data and you do make it sort of systematic, and you do have plans and you do reflect on data and pivot, right? Like that has taken ALA's work from being really good and being a really nice feel-good story to being phenomenal, right? And really having an impact. But I'm going to add a fourth part of the secret sauce, and this is just you, okay? And I think what that is I have found working with you for the last 5 or so years that you are an absolute sponge, right? And I think it's one of the best qualities an educator can have is like you have answers to all these questions, but you change your answers all the time. You read like 2 paragraphs and you're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. You listen to a podcast and you're like, I need to listen to more podcasts because I learned so much from that one, and I think it's like a funny thing about you that you're always taking stuff in. You're just completely a sponge when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
But I also think it's part of the secret sauce of ALA is I think that ALA doesn't have an answer. So many educational consulting and organizations have the answer. Here, let us give you the answer. And I feel like you're like, I don't really have the answer. I have a bunch of answers I think work, but I can't wait to learn some more answers. And, I think that's really unique about how you approach this work. But I think it's also part of the secret sauce. I think it's why when you meet with a teacher about a kid that's at risk, you really are going to give them some ideas and you want to hear some ideas. And it disarms educators and it allows you to keep getting better at what you do. So you don't have to respond, but the sponge aspect of what you do, I think is a big part of why ALA works the way it does.
Yeah, I
And I
appreciate
mean,
that.
you just wrote this book, which is phenomenal and fun to read and easy to get through, and like you get a ton of good ideas.
Yeah,
I feel like you're probably already like, I have 20 new ideas since I wrote that book. Like I
yeah,
wish I could do 16 appendices, whatever.
yeah,
Because you never stop learning, which is, and by the way, that's also a great model for the students you work with. So,
yeah.
all right,
I
speed
appreciate that.
rounds. We're calling this speed round favorites.
Okay.
Four favorites. All right. So
Ah,
I'm not putting in four favorites. Can't
okay.
give it too much thought. It's a one word answer, maybe one sentence to describe it, but it's quick.
Okay.
All right. Your favorite rapper of all time.
Mm. I have to go with. Ooh, I gotta go with Fabulous.
Wow. You are that's a small group of people that would have that be number one.
Listen, so he was my favorite rap. I remember being in eighth grade and my brother, my older brother, Vishay put me onto him. He had like this freestyle and DJ Clue. And I remember who is this dude? And then I heard like he had another song, then his album came out. It was just all like in my the years where I was like consuming like
Yeah.
culture and like so it was like it kind of like made me it kind of defined like all the things I would be interested in and like fashion and like just like that cool bravado. It's like so he played a big part in like my teenage years. So I gotta say Fab was my favorite, man.
Love it. Great answer. Favorite basketball player of all time.
Eddie House, come on.
This is the greatest speed round ever.
Eddie House. No,
I
he
really like Eddie House. I didn't know he was your favorite of all time.
listen. Eddie House, I met him last year at a Celtics game. I got pictures with him. I could have like died that, and I would have been fine with how
Yeah.
my life turned out. I met Malcolm X's daughter, and I met Eddie House, and I got pictures of both of them. I'm good. I'm here from here on out, Timmy. This is it. I'm good.
I love it. Favorite movie of all time.
Mm, above the rim. Got to be above the rim. Um, little like his Kyle Watson's work ethic in the
Yeah.
mornings. He was waking up early, doing
Yep.
push-ups, going to the court, and getting shots up with his buddies. I was like, man, we gotta. That's how we gotta work. That's how I thought
You
I
gotta
had to
lock
work.
in.
I thought I was going to Georgetown. I thought I was. Listen, man, that Kyle Watson.
This is why we connect so well. Like these things make us think like about ourselves. Like most people are like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good movie. You're like, I was going to Georgetown. All right, last one. I know how you're obviously way into fashion and great at it. So favorite brand.
Ooh, that's a great one. Oh, that's a great one. So good. I think. Thing is, I don't know if I have a favorite because times change. You know what I'm saying? Like I got this really cool Supreme tracksuit, uh, and my cousin's like, man, like, oh, are you a part of the mob? Like, are you like a mob boss? Like, what are you doing? So I would say like I guess most recently I really like Supreme,
All right.
but Timmy and my wife has like a lot of like bags and stuff, like with like I wouldn't say a lot, but she has a few like Louis Vuitton bags, So, but I would say, really with me, I don't even really. I like stuff that like doesn't really have brands.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I guess like I like black owned brands for sure, but like brands that you can't even tell what brand it is, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that thing, right? It's like a blank tee or like some kind of like cropped shirt or fit, and like the jeans, like but you don't really know, but like I fashioned it so you like it and I like it,
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. I agree with that. I agree with that. Sort of brandless is your response. Like
yeah,
being above it. You're above the brand. You're about
yeah,
the piece. You're about the piece.
yeah, for
I
sure.
love it.
It's a good
Well,
question.
Valenti, it's an honor to work for you and with you, and I'm so proud of all the work you're doing, and I really hope you keep it up. And I think it should be scaled to almost every school in the country. That's my opinion.
I do
Um,
agree. I do agree with that. Just because schools aren't great with it yet. So sorry. Do your thing.
yeah, no. Well, anyways, thank you for joining the pod finally.
I know, man. I know. I was a part of it. Of like I think over COVID, it was like, but I was just starting out, and it was like a bunch of like Eddie Pope was on there. It's just a bunch of really smart people. I'm like, dang, I got so much more to learn, and so I feel like now is the time. I feel like we've done a lot together, and I got to get back into your classroom too, AIC, and talk to the students there too, because
Yeah.
next year, obviously.
Anytime, and keep being a sponge. It's part of the secret sauce. So it's been an honor, all of it. So thanks for coming, and thank you all for joining us here on another Teacher's Cup of Coffee.